It's been a minute since we talked about it, but Auburn football has got another commitment for the 2025 class, one that has been a long time coming, a very big name with a lot of attention and hype around this position. Let's talk about it. We're going to get into some quick facts and, of course, what it means for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. War Eagle Auburn family, and a special War Eagle and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of our E2C network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live on the replay, however you got here, whenever you got here. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us to talk about something within the Auburn experience. Today, we are talking about a reaction stream for an Auburn commitment, a major one for the class of 2025. Now, a couple of housekeeping notes before we get into all this. Yes, this is during our the live stream portion of our Auburn Family Night time. We will do that immediately following after this. So if you're wondering if that's going to replace tonight, we're still going to do that. So just keep that in mind. But for now, we want to give you guys that really want to just focus in on this particular commitment, a stream of your own to have to kind of reference and go back to if you need to. What is the commitment? Deuce Knight, quarterback from Georgetown County High School in Mississippi, is your latest Auburn football commitment. Everybody breathe a sigh of relief. My goodness, the lamenting, the eagerly awaiting, the anticipating, the thousands of questions today that Auburn content creators like myself are getting. Is Deuce Knight going to commit? Is he going to commit? Is he going to flip? Is it going to happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally here. He is now flipped officially from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I saw a lot of, in fact, Notre Dame fans being very worried or acting not worried about this in several of our live streams and other places out there. But obviously, the reality is here. He flips from Notre Dame to the Auburn Tigers to become part of the 2025 class. So how we operate through this is a reaction stream. So we like to take some comments and questions from some of you guys out there about what, if it fits appropriately to all of what we're talking about here. But we want to just give you some quick facts and then things for what it means, what we think it means, what it could mean for the future, for his future, for Auburn football, all that kind of stuff in a somewhat very succinct format. Usually these go somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. We'll see how long it takes us today. But thank you guys for joining us. If you're watching live, smash that like button if you can. Subscribe if you haven't. And please do join us for Auburn Family Night immediately following this, even if you just go watch the replay. All right, so Deuce Knight coming from George County High School in Mississippi. It is part of Lucedale, Mississippi. I've never heard of Lucedale, Mississippi before in my life, I'll be honest with you. And just swapped over properly, so maybe that'll be a little bit better sound for you all there. This is what happens when a commitment happens right before you're supposed to do another live stream. All your things, your I's are not dotted, your T's are not crossed. George County, not Georgetown, Mississippi. This quarterback is listed somewhere between 6'4", 6'5". I've seen a lot of 4.5, so I'm just going to call somewhere between that range. You also get differing on your specs in terms of weight, somewhere between 205 to 210. It's quite a large specimen for a quarterback. I know exactly where most of y'all's minds are going right now. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourselves. Don't do it to this kid. Just let him get here and get an opportunity to play first. But there are measurables that do seem to line up very similarly with a certain other quarterback. And I know the eagerness around Auburn and wanting something special in quarterback as well. Apparently he's a lefty, according to Stan. I wasn't privy to that, but that's also an interesting thing. It'll be an interesting dynamic. But Deuce Knight from Mississippi, obviously we'll talk about the dynamics of recruiting in Mississippi and stuff like that. But, that's not an area that we hear us go to a lot these days, but it is right next door. Depending on where you look at him, you're going to find him mostly listed as a 4-star commit. As always, remember, 4 stars don't matter what they come in with. What they leave with is what matters. But he's listed as a 4-star commit. Obviously going to really help Auburn in those recruiting rankings. If you love to talk about that type of stuff, it does solidify them into probably the top and definitely the top 10, but in some spaces, the top 5 and things like that. I'm getting ahead of myself. We keep talking about Deuce right here. I think the biggest thing for Auburn fans is the saga that has been trying to find a quarterback in this class, because I think it's been the plan all along from outside looking in and from what the experts talk about, that Auburn was always going to take a quarterback. There's been names like Juju Lewis. Y'all remember when y'all were obsessing about him? There's been KJ Lacey out there. Deuce Knight has been the most recent one that has sustained for the longest time. Obviously, there's been some mutual interest there. If you've been following the storylines, you will have seen that he's taking several visits. A Big Cat Weekend visitor. He has been back for his own visits for, I believe it was the first 2 games. Did not come for homecoming, but came back for Arkansas and then was here on an official visit for the Oklahoma game. Usually when you get those official visits, even if there's someone that's coming along, that's that last little pitch that they need to be able to make. So thankfully, we are talking about that today with him making that final decision to commit after that official visit. Alvin Henderson, one of your current running back commits, has been very, very on this guy, has been talking about it a lot in social media. If you've been following that, about how much he's been promoting it, pushing for it. So you love to see where some of the efforts of some of our recruiting guys in the recruiting class are actually working out as well. So those would be probably the major storylines around him. We talked already a little bit about where he's from, obviously playing the position of quarterback, his measurables and things like that. So just some quick hitting facts. Just thankful that this we're finally having the opportunity to talk about this a little bit of time now. So Dalton wants to know, is it officially time to freak out? I've asked everybody to be a little sensible about this and not overhype the kid before he even steps foot on campus. Remember, it is only a commitment. Don't do that to yourselves, but you have every right to be excited about adding someone to the class. And I know that basically everybody is. I don't know reason why you wouldn't be excited for this to be a part of the class. Bubba even talks about it. I agree, Kyle. We saw the same things with Walker White, Tim Tebow comparisons. Deuce is nothing like Cam. You knew that's where this was going. Deuce is Deuce. Cam is Cam. Tebow's Tebow. Walker's Walker. Let them be who they are. Let them grow up and let them, grow into the player that they're meant to be. And we'll see what continues to happen here. Obviously, a lot of excitement. All the stuff's happening out there. All right, let's talk about what it means. A couple of different places that we like to talk about what it means for, obviously, him, for Auburn football, for the class, all of that good stuff. So what I want to do for you all here is talk about the class first. And as I mentioned at the outset of this, depending on where you look, you're going to find Auburn solidifying themselves in the top 5 currently as a class. Rankings don't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it is fun to talk about. But this certainly does help solidify them into the top 5 as the way things stand right now. So that's super exciting to talk about too. He is the first one from, I keep getting ahead of myself. He's the 25 commit in this class, the first quarterback commit, and likely the only quarterback commit in this class. You very rarely see 2 taken. I think I've seen it in my time that I've been doing stuff like this once, and it was we had our main person and then the backup that was being brought in. I guess you would count Hank and Hank and wow. Peyton Thorne in the middle of all this. Goodness gracious, that's going to be a clip right there. Being brought in together. So the first quarterback, the 25th overall, this class is very, very full, but that doesn't mean we are, say it with me, done yet. First from the state of Mississippi. You don't see us go to the state of Mississippi a whole lot, but it is right next door, which I find it quite interesting that we just don't go grab so many from that state over there. I don't know if there's loyalty or something like that. This obviously wasn't a case of loyalty because he was going to Notre Dame before he decided to flip to Auburn. Obviously, nice to see us continuing to have a reason to go back to Mississippi and build a pipeline there. What does this mean for the team? What does this mean for the future of the program? What does this mean for the future of his position? All of those things. So obviously, we all know the current state of the Auburn quarterback situation. We've got, as it stands at this current time of this doing this, Peyton Thorne, who will be gone after this year.
But what will remain, as far as we know at the time of discussing, is going to be Hank Brown, it's going to be Holden Garner, and it's also going to be Walker White, who just got here. So a lot of some experience, but a lot of very limited experience that's going to be left over. So what you may have Deuce walking into is an opportunity where, even though he will have the least experience out of all of these guys, an opportunity to compete for significant / starting time. You just really don't know the way this is going to swing. If he's as talented as everybody builds him up to be, obviously going to have an opportunity to compete and go out there and potentially earn some playing time. I do think that we will have one of the more significant, excuse me, quarterback debates, quarterback races throughout the offseason this upcoming year. So it should be quite entertaining from that standpoint. You would be stupid to not say that he's not going to factor into the race next year, because no one else so far has really solidified themselves that is possibly going to be here next year. So that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. What do I think? I don't know that he's going to start right away based on what I currently think and what I currently read about him, but I could be wrong. I am excited to add him to the group because you're going to need to fill that spot that Peyton Thorne is going to be vacating. Now, the question then becomes, how does this work out if you go and get a transfer quarterback and stuff like that? Does that affect his decisions in any way? Does it make him flip back? Does it make him flip to somewhere else? I don't know. But here's what Auburn will have, obviously, with the commitment of Deuce, is a very young, very limited experience quarterback room with a lot of opportunities for either one of those current three that may be here next year, and then the fourth one now in Deuce Knight. How a transfer portal quarterback factors into all those things, we'll see. All right, I can. That's your facts. That's what it means. We talked about all the different angles on it. Doesn't mean that we are done discussing it, but we do want to make sure we leave some time for maybe some comments, some questions. So if you've got some of those, maybe we haven't hit some of them yet, but we certainly can dive into a few of those if we need to on the back end here. Let me give you reminders before we do that. Obviously, if you're watching live, you know that we are doing this during the middle of what should be our normal Auburn Family Night time. That is still happening immediately after this. So I hope that you'll just jump on over to that one. Should be on the watch page and everything ready there for you to go as soon as this one concludes. Give me like 5 seconds to catch my breath and we'll do that. Or watch the replay if you're watching this replay. Obviously, we'll have our post-game preview show for Auburn versus Georgia tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Post-game show after the Georgia game and 9 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday, the Auburn Experience podcast, live recording again, where, of course, we'll be mentioning this again. So you've got plenty of content this week to check out. Don't miss out on any of it. Stan's bringing up his measurables again. It depends on where you look. You're going to see 6'4". You're going to see 6'4" you're going to see 205, 208, 210, 209. Like it does. Here, I just talk about it in terms of ranges. The dude's big, and he's a young guy too, so he's probably still got some room to go. Ryan is very excited on Facebook. He is very, very excited with the all caps on Facebook. Deuce is listed as a 5-star on some sites and 5 and a 4 on others. Yeah, I mean, I think depending on where you're going to go look, you're going to find some differing opinions on it. Here's the opinion that matters. He's obviously a highly coveted, highly regarded commit that a lot of people wanted. A lot of people checking in on Facebook now and celebrating. It's good. It's nice to see y'all being so happy these days. Bubba and a couple others, I think, said this too. I'd anticipate a transfer. Obviously, we don't want to focus on that too much right now. Just celebrate the fact that he's here, that he wants to be part of this team. That's a huge victory in and of itself. But that certainly will be something that factors into our discussions as time goes on, but not legitimately for a while here. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? Finally, a quarterback to match our young receiver core, soon to be Auburn Goats. Now, Chris, if you're talking about it in terms of what it could be, sure, but let's not just assume and do the same thing we do all the time, is build these kids up. But I like the narrative, right? You got a core of young receivers that are growing up together. You bring in another guy. Who knows? It could be Walker that is the guy that steps up next year, or even Hank or Holden, whoever. But it does feel good. It kind of matches the narrative a little bit. So I feel you on that. A lot of talk about him being a lefty. A lot of people still celebrating. I will be excited when he signs. Until then, I am not certain. I will say, and there is proof these days that if someone flips once, they'll flip back and then flip back again. We've got one in our class currently. So I always get a little nervous. I celebrate it, but when someone flips to us, are they going to flip back or flip somewhere else? You just never know. But we can just celebrate the good news for now. Have we forgotten about Walker New or people is what you meant. I see your little correction there. If you're someone who's being reasonable, someone who's looking at and not, and hear me on when I say this, folks. I think you should celebrate this, be excited about it, but I also think you need to operate in the world of reasonability and being a reasonable person, thinking through all these things. You've got some guys that are not just going to be pushed over and walk literally, Walker, walk to the side and let Deuce just walk in here and take the job from them. He's going to have to come in and earn it. But again, if he's as talented as he seems to be, that is going to be something that's really excited to watch. Robert says, I'm glad the losses haven't dissuaded recruits. You can see the improvement in what Freeze is building. So for those of you that have bought into that narrative, and I'm not saying you have, Robert, I'm just saying I've seen a lot of places. Losses don't always dictate, wins don't always dictate that someone is going to commit or not, or flip or not. It's just about what is the fit. What's the opportunities presented there? Clearly, there's an opportunity that Deuce sees here, whether it's because of the performance currently at quarterback or, and I think this is more to do with it, the spot that's opening up and the style of offense that he wants to play in. He can clearly look at the stats that are showing up in the game, despite the lack of results in the win column, and see, oh, we're throwing this ball around a lot. They're letting me run. They let their quarterback run a little bit. I kind of like that. I don't know how fast Deuce is, but Cam Newton was just about as big as him and ran pretty well. So I'm going to assume that he runs pretty good too. And there I go, making the Cam Newton comparison after I told y'all not to do it. My goodness, Kyle. Anyway, all right. So I think we have covered the gist of it. Wanted to get a live stream reaction out there for all of you to jump on this. We are, I'm sure, going to talk about this in Auburn Family Night, which will happen in just a few minutes. Some more. So if you want to continue the conversation, this is a good night maybe for some of y'all to call in and talk about this a little bit. Join us there. You can go watch the replay if you're catching this replay as well. Excuse me, I'm all choked up about it. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight and hanging out on this live stream. Hope we'll see you on the next one in a few minutes. But until we talk to you again, War Eagle.